I'm being joined today by Grant Fletcher, the host of The Humble Show. If you haven't checked him out, I've been over on their channel, and you should go there too, because you never know when I'm going to show up, and they're always doing interesting things. They talk about all sorts of pop culture and wrestling. You guys just had like a big wrestling show. Is that right, Grant?
We did. Yeah, that was
Awesome.
a lot of fun. We put on an event called Kayfabe Fest over in Mississippi, and so we had during the day we had some meet and greets. Right, we had Magnum TA was there. I came out of there with the signed Magnum TA action figure, which was rad. Mickey James was there, and Ron Simmons was there as well. And incidentally, because me and another person, we had to pick him up from the Jackson, Mississippi airport and drive him there and then drive him back. So over the course of that weekend, I spent a combined 3 hours in a car with Ron Simmons, and it was fantastic. Which was great. And Mickey James, I worked with her before. She's awesome. And it's a lot of fun meeting Magnum TA and talking to him about the old days of pro wrestling. And then Wildcat Sports and Entertainment out of New Orleans, they put on a wrestling card for us, that night, which was just fantastic. I hadn't seen live wrestling in a while, so it was a lot of fun to get back to actually watching a live wrestling show, just because I haven't had time to do it lately.
Well, speaking of the old days of wrestling, we're going way back to the past on this video. We're going to start talking about 2004. You approached me and said, Mr. Hartgrave, are you aware what was going on 20 years ago in wrestling? And I said, actually, I like to watch a lot of old wrestling. And in particular, there are a couple of things in 2004 I wanted to talk about. But I wanted to have you on and have you tell us what was on your mind when you went back and started comparing 2004 to today and the landscape of wrestling and everything that was going on then as opposed to what's happening now?
Well, that's what interesting, because like what sparked it all is I think I saw like a TikTok or something like that. And somebody was like, here's all the songs that are turning 20 years old this year.
Sure.
Feel old yet? And I was like, oh man, let's do that for the Humble Show. So this episode of the Humble Show that's coming out this week, or it may have probably already came out by the time this drops. I was like, let's do that on the show and just examine all of the movies and TV shows and things like that came out 20 years ago. And then I thought, what about wrestling? Yeah. Like, what happened 20 years ago in wrestling? Again, this whole, like, let me have this, like, feel old yet kind of moment, you know what I mean? Like, these things I remembered as a kid that were like, oh my God, that was 20 years ago. And what ended up happening was, it was more shocking to see, like, who was on top back then that's still on top today, 20 years later. And it's like, we'll get into it a little bit more, but it's like, we were in the late 90s. We were like, why is Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, why are they still doing this? These guys are 45 years old. And now today in 2024, Randy Orton is 43 years old. And we're like, well, he's not ready to retire yet,
We're not ready to let go.
45,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, he's hurt right now, but whatever.
It's a lot about the time as well. Like when we look at older wrestlers today, they still seem vibrant to us. I know when I was a kid looking at Hulk Hogan, still kind of rolling around there at 40, I was like, I'm past this. I'm more into the younger guys. So I think it's more that we kind of hold on to them a bit more if they were people we were watching when we grew up, as opposed to new fans that come in probably do want to know what's up with Randy Orton and his old balls.
Yeah.
Why is this guy on my TV?
I mean, that's true. I wasn't quite young enough to have really been a Hulkamaniac in the way that
I never got it, but I imagine that, people who grew up really, being a Hulkamaniac just didn't want him ever to go away.
Right.
Until we all wanted him to go away.
And now we all want him to go away.
We all want him to go away.
We've all come back around.
A little side tangent. Wasn't it weird that the Royal Rumble opened up with Hulk Hogan, like giving a speech like right after the Vince thing?
Yeah.
Like the Vince thing blows up, and I guess they had it planned before the Vince thing. They didn't know it was going to happen, but my God, like read the room, guys.
I'm sure they did, and you fly him in, you may as well use him, and he's going to get a reaction, so you may as well do it, but I don't know. They have had a very strange relationship for a very long time. I think everyone knows that, so they're like, he's not Vince's boy anymore anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, we got some controversy in 2004. I don't know when you're going to want to get into it, but there's a big old elephant in this room.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the fact that Chris Benoit is all over the list?
That one.
All over the list.
That one.
Oh, yeah, we're going to delve into that a pretty good bit.
I mean, as far as WWE is concerned, 2004 does not exist. Like, none of this stuff happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame because we're only what, like 3 years removed from everything going down with that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um, and yeah, and he becomes a made man in 2004, which
Yeah,
we will
this
definitely
is
get
honestly
into.
the year of Benoit. Like
Yeah,
all the highlights are Chris Benoit. Like
yeah,
every single
indeed.
match of the year is like what is the? It's a three-way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a couple of those too. So like,
Yeah.
it really depends on
But
what
they all include
publication you
Chris
want to get
Benoit.
into.
Whatever the match is, it's
Yeah,
got Benoit in it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of it's crazy. It's insane. It's a wild ride to look through. And again, it's just shocking. But like, I guess and if we're gonna go through it, we need to probably take it and dissect it month by month, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Is what I think. So here's the crazy thing right here, because we can talk about the Royal Rumble, but over in NJPW in Japan,
Oh yes, got some exciting stuff over there
Shinsuke
too. Yeah.
Nakamura starts the year as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion.
Yep.
20 years. So 20 years ago, he was the top guy in NJPW, and he's
Yeah.
still mixing it up with Cody Rhodes, one of the top guys in WWE today on Monday Night Raw.
A lot of people
Um,
think he should be a lot bigger of a guy than he
yeah,
ever has been in the WWE. I'm glad that he recently has had some very high profile programs in the WWE. It's good to see him get a little more respect. I like heel Shinsuke. I never, the
yeah,
face doesn't work for me. I know we want to cheer him and everything. He is a legend, but he's such a good bad guy. Like the promos that he's cutting in Japanese with like the anime inspired graphics and everything, it's
yeah.
amazing. Really great stuff.
And I think that's a great heel move as well. Like if you're not fluent in English, or
Yeah,
you are, fluent in whatever, your native tongue, right? To just cut promos in whatever language that the audience doesn't speak, because it doesn't
that's
matter what
good.
you say. It's
That's
just an
that's
absolute,
the
it's just
Kenny
a middle
Omega
finger.
move. It's even
Yeah,
better when you are fluent and you
yeah,
refuse to speak.
that's right. That's right.
They
He can.
really hated that he could speak fluent Japanese but refused to use it when he
Yeah.
was being a heel over
It's a great
there,
move,
which
man.
is it's
A lot of
awesome.
great work he was doing over there. So yeah, that's
But
true.
Kenny
And
Omega's nowhere on the scene in 2004.
no, not in any kind of way that really makes any kind of blip on the radar, I guess. But yeah, no. So Royal Rumble, January 2004, Chris Benoit
Ah,
wins the thing.
there you
Right, he
go.
eliminates the Big Show. The Big Show's still kind of sort of doing it as well. So that it's just where we are. And he's on his way, well on his way to being the man in WWE. So,
And now, so it
um,
is the WWE, and do we have the two brands? Do we have the Raw and SmackDown thing going on yet, or
yes,
is it
because
pre?
we
Okay, we
have
still
two
have that.
world titles at this point. Well, actually, no, shoot, I might be getting ahead of myself.
Does that happen
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year?
we do, because well, we'll get into that actually a little bit more
Okay.
as we go. But let's see, we'll talk about that. Let's see. Yeah, we have a world heavyweight and a WWE title, just as we do now, which is really dumb. I think there should only be one world title, but that's just my, stupid
I
opinion, I
agree with
guess.
you. I think it's I don't know. I get confused. And it's a
Yeah,
stupid thing for me to say. Like I get confused. I can't handle the fact of two belts. I mean, I just don't know why. I like
right.
the Intercontinental title. I mean, maybe it's just because of when I grew up. I like the Intercontinental title and the main title. You have the mid card title and the main event title. It seems like a
Yep.
lot of time in wrestling now for egos. It seems like to work with the egos of the wrestlers, we have two main events. Oh, this pay-per-view has four main events. Like, what do you there's really only one match that goes on last, guys.
Well, not
There's
to
one
mention too, if
belt
you have
that's
two
the
belts,
big
it's two pieces of
belt.
merchandise that you can sell.
Yeah, I guess so.
When you can sell replicas and action figures with the belt and things like that. I mean, that's a lot of what we're talking about, I guess. But I mean, usually it just becomes one is always less important than the other one.
There you
And
go.
it's like if it's a top title, shouldn't it be important?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, shouldn't you just have one champion who works both shows? If he's the man, why isn't he just on both shows? And then you could
Right?
have programs on either one of those shows,
Yeah.
and then you maintain a U.S. title on one show, and you maintain an Intercontinental title on the other show, so you have something on both shows at all times. But I don't know. I digress.
It's weird.
That's a whole other topic for a different day, which we could delve into if you want to do a long video on that. I will come
Belts,
back
belts,
anytime. We'll
belts.
talk about that. Yeah,
Yeah, let us
we'll
know
talk
down in the
about
comments.
belts.
Do you want us just to bitch about belts for like 2 hours? Because we can do it.
Yeah, or we could just and if you don't want us to, we're still going to do it anyway. We just
I'm
won't
definitely
record
going to
it,
do it.
so it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. So yeah, here we are. Chris Benoit wins the Rumble, so he is in the main event of WrestleMania. Now, But if you want to move on to Ring of Honor in
Yeah.
February, because Ring of Honor is only like 2 years old at this point in time,
Yeah, we
and
got
they
really
introduced the
early on
Pure
Ring of Honor.
Championship.
Now, like literally no one's watching Ring of Honor at this time. It has like no production value whatsoever. There's like 10 people in attendance, right?
Yeah. So the thing about Ring of Honor, I guess, I don't know if a lot of people know this. So Ring of Honor was basically born out of the death of ECW when you think about it.
Very much
Um,
so. Very much so.
kind of
That
in the name of Rob
DNA has
Feinstein.
passed. It passed from ECW into Ring of Honor, and now very much, I believe it like Katamari'd its way through
Yeah,
Ring of Honor, and it's ended up in AEW with like
kind
bits
of
of Ring
did.
of Honor and ECW. It's kind of all slammed in there.
It's a big amalgam of just whatever it is now, I guess. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
still
it's
there.
that's the thing because Ring of Honor is born out of the death of ECW, like we said. So a guy named Rob Feinstein has this company called RF Video. Um, that is, it's a tape trading company, and they sell a lot of
Yeah.
ECW tapes and things like that. I say tape trading company. It's a little more than that, but still. And so
It's like
basically,
how
out of there
AEW is a
being
t-shirt
no,
company.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So out of there being no ECW product for them to sell tapes of, they start a new product, Ring of
There you
Honor, and
go.
that's where it comes from. And then Rob Feinstein gets into trouble, and then he has to exit the company, and so on and so forth. It actually is an interesting read. If you don't know about the history of Ring of Honor, you should look it up because it has had some interesting twists and
I've been
turns. But
watching a lot of it, but
I
I don't
digress.
know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. But
Yeah.
that's been my recent obsession. I've been watching like all the Ring of Honor stuff. So when you came to me with this, what came to my mind in 2004 is what was going on with AJ Styles and CM Punk. That was the
Okay.
big deal in Ring of Honor at the time, yeah.
And
And
I'm
then we
glad you
talk
bring
about
that
these
up.
guys and they're main eventing right now.
Yeah, yeah, because so they have they introduced the Pure Wrestling Championship, which is the one that
Yes.
has the very specific rules,
Yes. I
and
like
that's
it.
great.
I love the
I
pure
like
rules.
that.
I
I
think
like
it's
it
so
too.
it's fun.
I like it too. It allows you to kind of get some technical wrestling without it getting too bogged down.
There's
You
a
know.
belt that doesn't bother me. The Pure
Yeah.
Rules belt is different than the other belts. You have to wrestle differently to win it. There's different rules. So I like it. I like that it's like a different distinction.
Well, I like that they figured it out too because it was gone for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Well,
only was around for
and
a
the
couple
storyline at the
years.
time is that AJ Styles. I mean, we're gonna, he manages to get a hold of the belt, but the world champion of Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe, another guy that's main eventing now, he's pissed off that this belt exists and that it stands in like defiance of his belt. Like, oh, what, you're
Yeah.
better than me because you wrestle these weird rules, you weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. Like you only get the X number of rope breaks and things like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so like you said, AJ Styles, he becomes the first pure champion and he beats CM Punk.
Yes.
And both of these guys are still in WWE
Great,
today.
great
doing-
fucking match, by the way. If you haven't seen this
Yes.
match between AJ Styles and CM Punk,
Yeah.
this is the one with Ricky Steamboat as the referee that got referenced on AEW Collision. This is the one they were talking about, and it's really worth hunting down. Subscription to Honor Club's like $10 or something like that, and just go watch this match. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's out there. It's worth the watch.
It's really good.
And it's one of those things too, because Ring of Honor was definitely like if you look at the end of ECW became a really refined product.
Yeah.
It was less of the blood and guts type of
Yep,
thing. I mean,
yep.
they still had that, but it wasn't, whatever. And Ring of Honor was kind of that natural evolution of what ECW could have become or would have become had it been around longer.
I think so.
I digress. But we have no
I
way
mean,
out.
missing. I mean, we elephant in the room again. Like missing Paul Heyman. Like without Paul Heyman, like I don't know. There's only so much ECW you're gonna get, but it's got that vibe. It's definitely some of that's there. I mean, the ECW chants were breaking out. Like you can't stop those guys.
Yes and no. I think a big part of the problem with ECW, and this is a different video for a different time, but was that Paul Heyman really did just need I mean, he's a genius. He really should have been at the top, but he really was doing too much, and I don't think he was.
Well, it's
as
interesting
organized
because
together
he
to
agrees
do it
with you.
all.
He says that his best work was on SmackDown. When he was appointed as the writer on SmackDown, he said he actually thought that he got the best stuff done when he was opposed and had to like work against people. It brought out the best in him.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of a lot of.
Of course, he said that looking into a WWE camera, so take it with a grain of salt.
Right. I don't know. A lot of, and I don't know if I talked about it last time, but Joel Gertner, who worked in ECW, is one of my best friends, and there was this thing that a lot of wrestlers have talked about where Paul Heyman would call you
Yes.
and then he'd go, "Hey, I'll call you back in 5 minutes," and then he'd hang up, and then like 30 minutes go by, and he's like, "Hey, let me call you back in 10 minutes," and then like an hour goes by, and I was like, "What was up that?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "But if you got on the phone with Paul Heyman, it was like holding gold in your hands if you actually had him. Like it was just like it was just precious, precious time that you weren't going to get otherwise. You had to wait for it. So, you know, but yeah, we could definitely, I think that'd be a really good video. We could maybe get with Joel and maybe hang out and talk about just his perspective of the history of the company. But that might be a 6-hour video, just so you know.
Yeah,
But
we're all good for that. We can do that here.
it'd be cool.
All right, let us know down in the comments, guys. I'm excited about it because I also watched a lot of Ring of Honor or a lot of ECW recently. That's where I've just been going back through the history. So this is why I was fascinated by this because it gives me the chance to talk about some of this crazy stuff.
When I was 13, I begged and pleaded with my dad to take me to an ECW show, and I had no business being there.
I hear that Tony Khan has always felt safe at those shows, and there's only one time in his life he's ever feared for his life, and it wasn't at an ECW show.
I felt safe. It's just, again, Joel was there. I didn't know him at the time. He comes out and my dad's like glaring at me when he's doing his shtick. So, it was a whole thing.
I didn't feel safe watching the show. How did you feel safe being at the show?
But look, yeah, we're going to have talking. But I will say this also in February in WWE, Eddie Guerrero becomes the guy, right?
There's another
big one. He beats Brock Lesnar and becomes
now champion. Eddie's not removed from history, but he's another one who's not with us anymore.
I was going to say Eddie Guerrero has since passed. Brock Lesnar will never set foot in another wrestling
ring. Oh my God! Another can't. We got. I don't remember anything of this ever happening.
Yeah, he's just gone. He's just going to vanish. He's going to disappear.
They've already pulled him off the cover of a video game, so it's happening.
Didn't they take it? I think they took him out of like the Supercard game and things like that.
Immediately, yeah. That was I think one of the last videos that I put up on the channel was about that. So.
Yanking all the merch and everything. Oh yeah, I did watch that one.
Thank you.
I do watch most, but not all of your videos. I watch the ones I can. Okay.
You see, you're the best.
I'm a grave digger, my friend. Yeah. Look, I'm in the humble fam. I'm a grave digger. I can be multiple things at one time. I can juggle stuff. It's all good. But also worth noting when we get to March real quick, I'm just going to say it real fast. Jeff Jarrett in AAA or AAA, as Joel calls it, because that's how they pronounce it. He wins the King of Kings tournament as well. And Jeff Jarrett's still around, to some capacity.
Has not been wrestling. I think his last big match as of recently, as of this filming, was like the Texas Chainsaw Death match.
Yeah.
He went out on a high, man. He was holding up that belt. He was so proud.
He's very much a part-timer, but he's far from done. I guarantee it.
He looks
what's
great.
Notable though, because March, we got to talk about WrestleMania. We got to spend some time on Mania, right? The big thing that I'm gonna say about Mania, so we see John Cena win his first title in WWE. He becomes the U.S. champion.
Okay.
Over the Big Show.
That's where this happened.
So that's very much notable. Also,
we're starting the reign of Cena. The era of Cena is about to begin.
Yeah. So that's what's crazy as well, is this is the beginning of that too. So what's this whole the feel old yet kind of moment. This is it, right?
Crazy.
And then they have this fatal 4-way tag match, and really the only guy who's actually active today on a regular basis that's in the match is Rob Van Dam, who we just saw on AEW last week.
Yeah,
I was there, by the way. It was great. It was a. Did you know it was Rob Van Dam, by the way?
I eventually caught on. Yeah. I don't know how I missed I don't know how I missed the hints. And then that was my favorite part of the show. Watching it was Excalibur on commentary, dropping all these very obvious hints.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too. We were so his wife trained in New Orleans at Wildcat Sports and Entertainment. And we know who she is, and we're in the crowd, and we look across, and we're like, well, there's RVD's wife sitting over there on the
Spoilers.
Floor, so he's here. Yeah,
it wasn't a very closely guarded secret.
I think they're married, his girlfriend, whatever, but I'm pretty sure they're married. Anyway, I'm like 90% sure. Now, honestly, Rob Van Dam's still doing it, man. Still amazing.
That was his best match he's had in AEW by far. Yeah.
But then we see a match too on WrestleMania as well, where Christian and Chris Jericho are together.
Wow, that's crazy.
Against each other. And Trish Stratus is involved, and Trish Stratus is still getting mixed up in it too, who's amazing, by the way. If you ever get a chance to meet her somewhere, She is awesome. Make sure you do that.
That's wild. Yeah, well, I mean, Jericho has been a staple of wrestling for a very long time at this point, so it doesn't
Of course.
surprise me that he's doing stuff at WrestleMania in 2004 and
Yeah, it's like
still
he never
around
fully
today.
went away, so like it's not
Never.
surprising when you see him anywhere.
Yeah, he's just, as
Now,
always there.
another really, really good match, one that I think people should go back and rewatch if you have a Peacock subscription, which I think most of us watching here do.
Yeah, let's see
You have the on WrestleMania, you have the handicap match, Evolution, which is Orton, Batista, and Flair in this case,
okay,
against the Rock and Sock Connection.
crazy.
Of course, the only guy still really active there is Randy Orton, who is still doing amazing work. Still one of the
Yeah,
best,
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the best ever. I'm just gonna say it right now.
Now I noticed
Um,
that they had down Edge as the comeback of the year. Do you know the whole story there with Edge? I know he had some injuries. He came back. He had to go away,
yeah, I think this is. I want to say this is when he had the big neck injury and went away for a while.
and he comes back.
Um, and then came back, and then basically, that was he was back for a while, and it was like
Is this like
still
his
not
first
right.
comeback?
Yeah,
Because he's come back like 3 times then.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd count like the most recent one because he didn't actually. So he retired officially, I think, in 2011,
Okay.
and then was gone for the better part of a decade.
Because yeah,
But
he had to retire himself due to a like a neck surgery he was putting off.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Basically, that was it. And that was a kind of a culmination of things, if I remember correctly, is he had this injury that he'd been working with for a while and whatever else. And I want to say, I'm trying to remember exactly um, when it happened, but I'm actually looking right now to see if I can
But it was
tell
a big
when.
deal to have him come back. I know that was monumental.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Because he was sort of, one of the top guys at least chasing the title there. Um, and
And now I
then
think it
I
was
think,
easier to do that stuff back then, like surprise people. Like right now, if somebody gets injured, we know like what they're doing every minute of every day up until the point they return. And we got somebody in the parking lot tweeting out that they're there, right? It's difficult.
yeah,
Whereas with
yeah, I
Edge, we
think
can really
so.
surprise people. You can take them off TV. You can say they're injured. You can say they're not going to be back ever. And then, 6 months later, you can walk them in the back door and nobody will know. And you can surprise people.
Yeah, yeah. And when you can pull it off, these days, like you said,
Though
it's a
I
very
did hear
special kind of thing.
I did hear a crazy story about Edge's return to AEW, where he was in town the day he was supposed to return as a surprise at the pay per view, and
Uh-huh.
somebody like scoped him out like at a sub shop, and he
Yeah.
just like looked at him and went like,
I believe that. Look,
that one fan,
and that was it.
he kept it
That's great.
secret. I'm proud of that guy.
Look,
That
man,
took
just do
some
Uber Eats in your hotel room next time. 'Cause,
right.
they're gonna find you, dude. They're gonna find you. You're a tall guy. You're a good looking guy. You're noticeable. People are gonna know who you are, my friend. It's you can't avoid it. You know. Yeah, but it's crazy because also Mick Foley just said the other day, like a week ago, that he wants one more match.
Yeah,
Summer
yeah.
of next
I
year,
heard
I
about
think
this.
is
I
what he's
heard
aiming
about this,
for.
and he says he
Yeah,
wants blood.
yeah. Well,
So
he wants a death match.
there's only one place I think that's going to go down at.
Yeah. What,
And
GCW?
no, no, I'm hoping there'll be cameras there.
It's not going to be a WWE thing for sure, but
It doesn't
I think
sound like it. It doesn't
it
sound
could
like it.
definitely be like a GCW type thing, or
It
perhaps
could,
AEW.
it could. I would hope they would bring it to AEW. I would hope they would
Yeah,
put
I
it
mean
on the big stage,
that would be ideal,
make it happen.
right? That
Yeah,
would be where you'd get the most coverage, I think. But
I think so.
for where they would let him do it and also get the most coverage. But you know, that could be the case. But I haven't seen him since September, so I don't know. I haven't had a chance to actually talk to him about it because I think this is more of a recent thing he's come up with. But um, still, I mean, another thing to note as well, and this isn't really that's surprising, but Rey Mysterio, of course, is in the mix up here too. Chavo Guerrero becomes or is retains, I think, the cruiserweight championship at WrestleMania. Um, who just trained everybody for the Iron Claw movie. He was the head coach on that movie. So also he plays the Iron Sheik very briefly in the opening of that or early on in that movie as well. If y'all caught that, I don't know if you did or not, but it's good. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I really
I
enjoyed
haven't
it.
seen it yet, but it's definitely on my list.
Now this one is also the WrestleMania where we have the huge stinker between Brock Lesnar and Goldberg too.
Ooh.
WrestleMania 20, where they're both leaving and they're like, "Oh, here's what we'll do. We'll fix everything. We'll just put Steve Austin as the referee for the match," and it doesn't
You
do
know, I know
anything.
Goldberg wants one more match too, but let's not mash up the McFoley and Goldberg
Yeah,
final
let's not.
matches. Let's
Don't
not
cross the
combine
streams.
that. Yeah, don't cross that. Yeah.
We can't be doing
I
that.
don't even want that on the same show.
Yeah. He wants a retirement match, and maybe he'll probably get it. You know, if he lobbies for it and he really goes around to whomever, of course, and with Vince being gone now, I mean, he might get it. Who knows? But I think they've got hot enough angles in WWE right now. They don't really need to. They don't really need Goldberg to
Yeah,
come in
people
and do
don't love
anything.
Goldberg, but you know, this is one of
No,
those things where I actually do have nostalgia for Goldberg. Like, I don't mind seeing Goldberg. Like, I know all the stuff that's come out now. I don't care. I know when I was a kid, man, Goldberg was awesome.
yeah,
Just the way he was booked in WCW. I know, like, the guy was inconsequential. They could have booked
right.
anybody that way, and that guy would have been dope. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. It'd be interesting to see it. I think the match is Goldberg versus Wardlow, man. Or
That would be cool.
like throw that down and pass
You
the
know,
torch.
a
Yeah.
5 minute. It's got to be like 5 minutes
Yeah.
though. It can't be longer than 5 minutes.
No,
But
real
otherwise,
short.
I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
I would be down with that.
That'd be
You
fun.
know, I'd be very much down with that. Now another thing as well interesting here is Shelton Benjamin being involved in the tag title picture because Shelton Benjamin is I still think Shelton Benjamin is just amazing. Um, and so you know it's really cool to see, and of course we're seeing things here like you know your main event match. You
It's
have
crazy
your Eddie
how many
Guerrero.
names are just still around. Like
I know,
we're
I
not
know,
meant.
right?
This is not ancient history, but it is 20 years ago.
It is 20 years ago, yeah, and like Eddie Guerrero, the late Eddie Guerrero,
All right.
is taking on Kurt Angle, and I'm telling you right now, Kurt Angle's not done. You know, he's got more work left in him. He's coming back at some point in time. So that's going to happen here.
Maybe it's possible.
Yeah, our world championship match. It's the triple threat match. Chris Benoit becomes the man against Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Yeah,
So
I believe
that
this
is
one is the one that went down as match of the year for a lot of
that's
people.
the
This is
confetti
a
spot
big
and everything
deal.
else like there with Eddie and all that good stuff. I mean, that is
Yeah.
where that happens. You know.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So it's a really big, really interesting time. There's a lot of highs and lows on this one WrestleMania pay-per-view. I'll say that much.
And they will not play highlights of that match anywhere.
No, of course not. Oh, dear God, no. No, they won't even mention it.
Oh my
Like, remember
God.
that time that
Yeah.
Triple H and Shawn Michaels wrestled each other at WrestleMania and no one else was involved?
Yeah,
just
no
those
one
two
else.
in that one match, and they both lost somehow. Weird, right? How that, I don't know.
I
how that
don't know
happens.
how.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But
no.
now we move on though because things get interesting in May because this also is the beginning of JBL's ascent to the main event at this point in time as well. So JBL beats Eddie Guerrero the next month at Judgment Day, excuse me, but it's by disqualification. He doesn't actually win the title, and he retains. And I've worked with JBL a couple times.
You were telling me he's actually a sweetheart.
JBL, it rules. He kicks ass. He really does. I really want to work with him and Ron Simmons together. We talked about that a little bit. Ron Simmons and I did about how they want to do some appearances together this year. So hopefully that can happen because they're both really rad. They both have very, very, really, really funny stories that are awesome. But you know, every time I've worked with him, he's talked about Eddie Guerrero a lot, and he's like, you know, Shawn Michaels, you know, Undertaker, whatever. He's like, no one is higher in my mind than Eddie Guerrero because Eddie Guerrero made JBL, right?
I know a lot of people have those stories about it. I think CM
Yeah.
Punk mentioned him as well. Like he didn't understand wrestling until he wrestled Eddie Guerrero, right? Like,
Yeah,
he
I've heard
thought he
him say
knew
that.
something, and then he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything."
I've heard him say that. Yeah. JBL has described every time I've talked to him about it. Described getting in the ring with Eddie Guerrero was like grabbing a hold of a live wire, is what he
Yeah.
said. You know, there's just no containing the guy. He was just going to do what he was going to do. You know, but we got to move on into June, right? And June's a lot of fun. So Triple H and Shawn Michaels, they have that Hell in a Cell match in June at the Bad Blood pay-per-view. So which is it was a pretty solid match, I think.
There's a name we don't hear anymore. They got these weird names for pay-per-views that aren't around
Bad Blood
anymore.
used to be one that you would expect to see every year.
Yeah,
you know?
that's been phased out.
And we don't get it because we also had the Great American Bash, and I think they do
American
kind of still
Bash.
keep that alive. But they're
I
like
think they've moved
special
it over to
live events.
NXT. They moved a lot of the pay-per-view
Yeah.
names over to NXT for some reason, like especially the WCW ones.
Which I'm glad they still have them though.
It's
Halloween Havoc and
nice,
things like that. I'm
yeah.
glad they revived that.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Great American Bash is funny because, and I don't know, because I know that you were taking a break from wrestling at this point in time in general,
Yep.
but I don't know if you've ever seen this. So the Undertaker has this handicap match with the Dudleys,
Okay.
and the Dudleys are with Paul Heyman.
Nice.
And the idea is Paul Heyman is like, really after the Undertaker.
Now
And the
this is
idea,
after ECW, but
yes.
before or before what is One Night Stand, right?
Oh yeah, let's see. When was the first ECW one night stand? I like that question because I don't know. I'm pretty
after
sure it is
that we
before
get
it. Yeah,
the
2005, 2005.
okay. So
Which I
we're,
thought
we're
so. So
before
about
that. We're in a
a year
nice
out.
little ramping up to the revival, and then where we
Yes.
probably should have ended.
Honestly, yeah, that should have been the only one. Sandman should have made that entrance, and they should have like killed the pay-per-view after that. That would have been the end of it. But
I don't know.
best laid
I
plans.
actually did go back. I actually did watch all of the ECW TV, and
Yeah,
until Vince shows up, it's fine.
yeah.
When Vince McMahon starts showing up every week, things
Then we get
really
too
hit the
ragtime.
toilet. And that first pay-per-view, that first ECW Elimination Chamber,
Yeah.
that is dog shit. But the TV show wasn't really that bad, guys. Like, yeah, I think people really shit on that show because Paul Heyman was still had a lot of control, and I know that now it's fun to dump on it, and definitely after he left, it went to the drizzling shits. But there for a bit, it was okay.
That's where Bob Holly sliced his back open.
Yeah, that's fucking.
I
That's a
talked to him
crazy
about that
match.
once before, and he was like, "Yeah, they tried to stop him the match," and I told him no.
That's a crazy match. That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
I mean, yeah,
But
how can you say ECW is dead when that shit's still going on?
Right.
Like that's not dead yet.
not quite, not just
Not quite.
yet.
There's still a little. It's still pumping a
They
little
end
bit.
up putting the nail in the coffin, but not quite yet.
Well, how did this one go? We got the Dudleys and Paul
Okay,
Heyman.
so we have the Dudleys and the Undertaker in a handicap match, and it is a concrete crypt match sort of thing. So Paul Heyman's with the Dudleys, and he's after the Undertaker. And they have.
I
Paul
can't
Bearer.
even
They have
begin to
captured
understand the
Paul Bearer.
storyline. Like, why the fuck
What's
are they
that?
doing this?
I know they've captured Paul Bearer, and they have him in a glass crypt.
Oh, this is the one with the cement machine, right?
Yes.
Oh
and
my
it's half
god.
full of cement, wet cement. And the idea is
Wow.
if the Undertaker wins, Paul
Wow.
Heyman is going to pull the lever and bury
Wow.
Paul Bearer.
And we do
the
this.
Undertaker
We kill
wants-
Paul. This is the pay-per-view where we kill Paul Bearer.
We kill him, but we don't kill him. That's also another thing too. That's and then what happens is the Undertaker wins, and then he walks over and pulls the switch himself. And
He's like, "Fuck it."
basically finishes himself. Yeah, bye. I'm done with you.
I ain't got no
And then
weaknesses.
the next night they come out and they're like, well, he's just hurt really bad, which I would be hurt really bad too if I got buried in
I
cement.
think I would be hurt bad dead.
Right. And they sort of softly let him go. Like they use him for developmental, not developmental, but for creative a little bit.
Okay.
And then they terminate his contract and then they sign him to a Legends deal. And so anyway, so Paul Bearer is still around kind of, but not really after this. And then we have a repeat the next month in July at Vengeance of the triple threat match from WrestleMania. So we have Chris Benoit beating
Run it back.
Triple H and no, I'm sorry, this isn't the one. This is not what I was thinking of. I'm confused. This is my bad. I'm looking at the wrong thing. But he does beat Triple H again for the World Heavyweight title. That's a one-on-one sort of thing. Sorry. But then we have Death Before Dishonor 2 from Ring of Honor, and I want to point this one out as well because you have CM Punk and Colt Cabana tagging, which is really shows you how much of a different time we were in at that point in time.
Yeah, these guys were still friends.
Right?
The fallout didn't happen
Yeah.
until he went on the podcast and the legal stuff
Right.
went down, and who knows.
Yeah, they were still friends for about another 10 years after this.
Absolutely,
That was the end of that.
To the point where he says hi to him unironically during the pipe bomb. So they were still everything was
exactly.
fine.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. Unfortunately, no tape seems to exist of this, at least not on Honor Club. I don't know. It might exist on YouTube somewhere or something.
This match?
I wasn't able to track down some of the 2004 stuff.
I bet you there's a DVD on eBay.
Absolutely. The
sure
DVD
there
on
is.
eBay or somebody's uploaded it to YouTube, but it's not on Honor Club. So I didn't revisit this one, but I did see it there on the list.
Well, what's interesting is they're in a tag match against the Briscoes.
Yeah.
Mark Briscoe tragically recently passed away.
Yeah.
I mean Jay, excuse me. That's it. There's a different guy. But
Yeah,
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 his
but they
but his
they
brother's still in the hunt for the trios titles right now
yeah, absolutely.
in
And
AEW.
yeah,
So
they go back easily 20 years.
and still there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And what's interesting too is somewhere around the same time we see Dan Maff as well challenging for those in a or challenging CM Punk in a tag match. So Dan Maff is a guy who still kind of pops up places from time to time. You see him there.
Interesting.
So all that's very interesting. Now, of course, what ends up happening later in the year in August is Randy Orton becomes the guy. Randy Orton beats Benoit for the title, right? And
This
again,
is
Randy
one
Orton
of his 20 title reigns that he's had.
Yes, yes, of course. Yeah, well, that's another reason why I don't like having two titles, because this is what happens when you have two titles is you really inflate the number of
Yeah,
championships
you
that people have.
expand
It doesn't mean anything.
those numbers.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they messed around with the numbers because people had fun with that recently when he was like, I'm gonna go win this belt for the 15th time, and they're like, isn't this your 20th time? Like, what are you confused? But it's
Yeah.
the 15th time with this belt, and then there was these other belts.
It just doesn't. I don't know, man. And then like what ends up happening too is they'll temporarily get rid of a belt.
Sure.
Right? And then they bring it back, and it's like, well, this guy was and you look at the lineage and who had it, and it's like this guy was the last champion, but this guy wasn't. And so, but now actually the undisputed title is the world title, and the WWE title is the WWE. It doesn't make any sense.
The problem is when they want to pull it out and they want to pull out this lore on me. I am so confused. I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like when they bring it out recently with Cody and Seth, and he's like, "Oh, you want this title? This is the fucking this belt." And what I'm like, I don't know what that is,
Yeah,
or what belt Roman
like,
has, or what any of this shit means.
And I get it's supposed to be like, oh, well, this is the big gold. It's the one that, yeah, but it's not though because you changed it. I mean, it looks like it. It looks cool, but still, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like I remember when Kevin Owens was Universal Champion, and he did some interview, and he said something about, this is essentially the same belt that Steve Austin held, and I was like, is it?
Is it though?
The Universal Championship? Is it?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't ever remember any Universal Championships, so I don't know about that.
Smoke and Skull title, but that was a different thing. That was just
I guess that's why we like to combine them and then split them, and then we can say whatever the fuck we want about them. I mean, belts are silly at the end of the day, right?
Right.
Doesn't really matter.
It's the MacGuffin,
but,
right?
But the problem is when you get into this crazy history and all this, and you try to explain it to people, it kind of exposes that they're kind of stupid and silly,
right?
And that's not what you want to do.
No, but I mean, it's like what if like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Like people were like, "Meh, I mean, I don't really care about this briefcase. I'll just let someone else." You know what I mean? Like, what if they weren't after it, right?
Yeah.
And it was just getting passed around from person to person for no reason. You know what I mean?
There's a new briefcase. We retired that briefcase. Now there's a new one, but we don't talk about the old one. But wait, we want to bring it back. So now there's two. What?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And look, I do want to talk about Ring of Honor real quick. Another thing with Ring of Honor as well is that one of the tag teams in Ring of Honor at the time was called Generation Next.
Yes.
Who was made up of Jack Evans and Roderick Strong.
Yes.
Now you're not a Roderick Strong fan, is that correct? Or am I?
I came around. Okay. I love the wheelchair Roderick Strong. I do not like serious Roderick Strong. Serious Roderick Strong is not working for me, but goofball Roderick Strong was goated. And the best thing he's ever done. So definitely.
Which is interesting because I never would have thought that that would have been a character that he could have run with.
I think it's a prime example of what's good about AEW, and then also a prime example of what kind of goes wrong with them when the wheels fall off of something.
Yeah.
And we end up where we're at now, which is Post Devil and Adam Cole and crew, and I just don't care anymore.
I understand the need to do it, right? Because you want to keep him involved, but he's injured.
Yeah.
So you just surround him with a bunch of guys, and they can do his bidding for him, and he can, keep his heat that way. But
And
You know,
I get getting those Ring of Honor tag belts over on the Kingdom because now they're actually showing up on Honor Club,
yeah.
which is nice.
I really liked the Kingdom back in the day in Ring of
Kingdom are
Honor.
still
So
good. Kingdom are always good. What one thing I found interesting going back and watching Ring of Honor is that Vincent was in the Kingdom.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So whenever Adam Cole left, Vincent was in.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Vincent from the
Matt
Righteous,
Taven was the leader of the Kingdom for a
which
minute
is
there.
wild. Yeah, Taven was the leader, and then I forget what name he was going by. It was like his real name or something. And now he's just been shortening
Oh,
it to
Vincent Marcellia. Yeah.
yeah, Vincent Marcelli. And I was watching him, and I'm like, that guy looks familiar. And then I Google it up. I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
because he's different. He's more like I don't know. He kind of looks like Rob Zombie or something, right? It's like
Yeah.
if Rob
Yeah.
Zombie was a wrestler, that would be
That would be
his old
Vincent. Yeah.
gimmick. And now he's got this more Bray Wyatt kind of inspired or co-produced, let's say,
I know.
thing because he was involved in that. It wasn't like people look at the Righteous and they're like, oh, this is a knockoff, and I'm like, no, it's like with his blessing, this was done.
And I mean, if people just started watching AEW like a few months ago or whatever, they might be surprised to find out that that Matt Taven was the guy in Ring of Honor for a while there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Everybody was
that's
gone.
what's interesting about all this. When you go back and you watch Ring of Honor, like basically this is where I started. I started in 2004 and I worked my way through like 20. I'm like on 2017 now or whatever, and you
Yeah.
just see the evolution of AEW. Like basically the entire roster of AEW is like coming from
Yeah.
Ring of Honor and New Japan. Do you have any other highlights from New Japan in 2004?
I don't think we have anything specifically here.
It's kind of spotty. It's kind of like the
Right.
Shinsuke thing was kind of going on, and it was very Japanese. We have yet to have the like Bullet Club invasion, which kind of ties into Ring of Honor a little bit later on.
And there's a bit of a black hole, I guess, in this at this point in time to in the States with Japanese wrestling because tape trading was dying at this point in time.
Yeah,
And that's really what brought a lot of attention to Japanese wrestling back in the day in the 90s, early 2000s was tape trading. So
yep. I feel like a
you
lot of
just do what
attention
you have to
got
do.
brought back to it. Number one with the Bullet Club. I mean, that's the biggest thing that's like ever happened. But once NXT gets started and they start bringing over Nakamura and the other guys, and I think people start wondering where did they come from? You know, what is this?
Yeah.
Where are these guys? Where are they getting these guys from?
Yeah, and then Ring of Honor has that partnership with them, and then
Yeah.
WWE brings in
And speaking of ECW, they had a great partnership with New Japan as well. They were bringing
Yeah.
in Japanese
New
talent for a
Japan
long
and
time.
FMW.
Yep.
Were the big ones that over there that they had that partnership with, and then WWE brought in Jushin Thunder Liger for an NXT to take on Tyler Breeze at one point in time.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
that brought a little bit of attention to him as well when they did that. So, I'd love to see more of it, but
Recently AEW brought in Jushin Thunder Liger to be pushed out of the way by Ricky Starks.
right.
What the fuck?
Look, he's done, man. He's done. He's finished.
It was
And
such
I
a
love
random
Ricky.
cameo, such a random odd cameo.
I love Ricky, man. I used to watch. I used to go watch Ricky wrestle in high school gyms.
Yeah, I know
Back
you're
in the
right
day.
there, right? Oh
Yeah.
man, are you going to be another person to tell me what a great guy he is? I got to
He
say
is.
nothing but nice things about him. I
He's
know he's a
awesome.
really I know he's a great
Let
guy.
me tell you something real quick, just as an aside about Ricky Starks. Is the first time I ever saw him in New Orleans at one of those independent shows. He comes out of the curtain, and I was like, okay, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, he's got it. And he was wearing long trunks at the time, like he was doing like the long pants, like a
Interesting.
different, still kind of the same.
You know,
look and
maybe I'd
whatever,
like him
but-
more if he would put back on the long trunks because I know that helped me with Daniel Garcia. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but sometimes you switch up the pants, and I'm just like, I like this guy more now.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that look better just in general, but some people it doesn't.
Daniel Garcia is like a different wrestler now with his long pants.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
best thing
some people
Jericho
pull it
ever
off, some
did
people
for him.
don't. Like when CM Punk did it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. That's not quite the same. But
Yeah, I'll agree to that. I don't think the long boys didn't help CM Punk.
Long Boys didn't help CM Punk. Did not.
Opposite effect. I don't know.
But
man.
I will say the Long Boys. It did help Triple H to shed the Long Boys. Because when he went to the trunks, well, I mean, he ends up beating Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship later that year. So it eludes him for a while, but eventually he makes his way back to the top. That's typically what happens when you're married to the owner's daughter. Anyway, I digress.
We have to digress a lot right now, and
Yeah,
I refuse to take sides. A lot of people want to like be like, well, not Triple H. Triple H is good. I'm like, just hold off.
yeah.
Just
Now,
wait.
but what ends up happening though is JBL does end up becoming champion over the course of that year, right over Eddie Guerrero. So he becomes the guy, and then he ends up beating the Undertaker in October.
I
At
had
No
no
Mercy
I
as
had
well,
no
which
idea
is
that happened. It's always a
yeah.
shock when somebody beats the Undertaker.
It is a last ride match, which I can't quite remember the stipulations of the last ride match. I'm
Probably
not quite
involves the
sure
last ride.
why. That is a
He
thing
was
here. I
really
think it's
trying to
kind of a
get
take
over the
on like
name of that
casket match.
finisher, is what he was trying to do. They were
Yeah,
trying to make sure that you knew that that was his finisher and not the tombstone. Okay, guys?
yeah, that's what it was. They really had to sell that last ride. And then it was the Hell's Gate, the submission hold after that. They had to sell
Yeah,
that. He had to beat Edge with that at WrestleMania at some point in time. So
absolutely.
that was another thing. But another thing that does happen as well in 2004 is Randy Orton does beat Ric Flair in a cage match, Taboo Tuesday, when they tried to do another Tuesday pay-per-view.
Wow, wow.
I don't think it worked out that well for him, but it probably didn't work out that well when they did this Tuesday in Texas back in the day too. But that was a whole different thing. So, and what's also fun here as well is because you're going to see like in TNA, TNA is still
Sorry, we
using the
haven't talked
NWA.
much about TNA. I think
Yeah, because
AJ
they're still
Styles
part
was
of
man of the
yeah,
year
they're
over
still part
there.
of the NWA at this point in time too. So their title is the
Oh,
NWA title,
okay.
and you're seeing Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy mix it up for
Yeah.
the NWA title. So it's one of those things that's fun. What's really fun about that time period of TNA, and just kind of if you want to go back and look and see who was the champion of TNA, because folks don't realize that R-Truth was the NWA champion a couple times. Or
Yeah.
Ron
Yeah, he was a big
Killings, as
deal
he
there.
was went by his real name at the time, I guess. But
Yep.
he's this funny guy, and people love seeing him on TV. But he was the top guy
He was
over there for
a
a little while.
legitimate guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, former world champion. No one really talks about it anymore.
I think that there's a subset that want to see him return as like some kind of serious, wrestler gimmick at some point. But I don't know. I don't know if that's in the
Because
cards.
he can go.
He can.
He's
Absolutely.
good.
100%.
He's really good. Like people don't even know how good he is. He's so good. But yeah, that's another reason why you should go back and look. I mean, all those TNA matches are on YouTube. I don't think you really have to pay for them to watch them.
Interesting.
I think like they try to get you to pay for them, but I'm pretty sure you can find most, if not all, of those on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch Ron Killings, R-Truth win the world title, you can probably find that for free. I'm just saying. After this, go back and watch that because it is worth a watch. And then what's fun is you're really looking at like who was in the Survivor Series matches. Because you have Team Orton, right? You got Orton, Benoit, who's Chris Benoit? I don't know who that is anymore. Chris Jericho and Maven. If we remember
Maven. Yeah.
who is a guy that I hear good things about. I think people talked about him. Being
He's
a great
become
guy.
quite
He
the
has a
YouTube
channel
celebrity.
now, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Up and coming YouTuber.
And then you have Triple H on the other side. You have Triple H, Batista, Edge. So only one guy's still working so far, and Snitsky on the other side, just show you where we were in 2004.
They actually brought Snitsky back recently, and he came out to applause that he did not expect.
Yeah, I guess so. I think he became a chef or something. Like, did he have a cooking show or something? I don't know, something crazy. But so yeah, that was interesting. And then basically you close the year with TNA. They're having their turning point pay-per-view, and you're seeing guys on that list like James Storm and Christopher Daniels, which I just watched Christopher Daniels last week in New Orleans.
Yep.
And he's still going. He's still good, man. It's crazy to see. And then you got JBL beating a guy who I'm going to be working with in about a month, Booker T.
Nice.
Eddie Guerrero and The Undertaker in a Fatal 4-Way. So JBL is closing out the year at Armageddon as the champion. Again, he's still the guy. And who else do we have here on there? There's Luther Reigns is still in WWE. Do you remember Luther Reigns?
No.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
but I got some names that everybody might know. These are the debuts that happened in 2004. 2004 was a massive year for debuts if you're looking at what is going on in wrestling right now. I found this incredibly fascinating. All right, here's the list. We got Orange Cassidy, debuted in 2004. Pac,
Cool.
debuted in 2004. Zack Sabre, John fucking Moxley in 2004 debut. We got Asuka and Kota Ibushi and QT Marshall, of all people, debuted in 2004. Yeah. Also, it's the debut of the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks break onto the scene in 2004, along with Seth Rollins, huge name right now.
It was Tyler Black at the time, right?
Tyler Black, yep, absolutely. Yeah. He's going to come up through Ring of Honor. And then
the Young Bucks were Generation Me, I believe. Is that what they went?
They had a rough road. Yeah. I believe they started off doing Independence and Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was their big one of their big ones that they worked with. And then when they came into TNA, they got rebranded. They asked them to cut their hair, go to Hot Topic and buy some random clothes and come out as Generation Me. And people still just cheered them as the Young Bucks, though.
Yeah.
Because the fans still knew who they were, so they had to. It didn't last long. It was ill-fated. Another big debut was Okada. This was his wrestling debut, so see a lot of things from him as well. And then finally we had a birth. Billy Starks, right now doing pretty good work on Ring of Honor, was born in 2004. So quite an interesting year when we talk about debuts as well. That's a lot of big famous wrestlers right now.
So if you're, again, if you're my age, feel old yet, there are wrestlers on AEW that were born in 2004. So or at least one. What I think is interesting because you did. Oh, also worth noting too, Samoa Joe, because you mentioned Samoa Joe earlier. He does close out the year as the Ring of Honor champion as well. So definitely worth noting. So I think
he starts and ends the year as Ring of Honor champion. I think he starts and ends the year.
Yeah. He's very long range.
He doesn't give up titles easily. People are like, oh, I think he's gonna lose to Swerve this year. I'm like, I don't.
I don't know, man. I think it'll be. I think it'll be a good program. I think it's going to happen that they're going to mix it up.
Maybe at World's End. I wouldn't expect it before then. Like Samoa Joe doesn't give up titles. I don't know. He doesn't get dicked out of them either. Like I would almost suspect like he was going to get some shenanigans on him to lose it, but I don't know. I think he's going to hold it a good long time.
No, it doesn't happen. You got to beat him, right? That's the way it
is. He might have a run to rival Roman Reigns.
Perhaps we'll see.
It's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I think Swerve is the next guy in line.
Absolutely.
As of today, but I don't know how it's going to happen.
You can just create a new belt and give him that, right? That's fine.
True. Or he could just become FTW champion.
I mean, it would be horrible, is why.
It wouldn't be great, but it would be a thing you could do. Yeah.
I honestly, I really wonder if MJF hadn't been injured, if he would have been like the first AEW 2-year champion, because we haven't had anybody really hold the belt more than a year. We've seen a very typical, you get it for a year and then the next guy kind of situation.
I think if in a world where you're trying to keep MJF happy and keep him on your show, that's what you do.
Maybe.
But I'm not in Tony Khan's place, so I don't know. I don't know what conversations they have or what he's thinking. But now what's interesting though is we're looking at 2004. PWI, every year towards the end of the year, they release their list of the top 500 wrestlers. And I just want to look at the top 10 wrestlers in 2004 and compare them to the top 10 wrestlers in 2023. Or
That's
at least
interesting.
Compare them to where these guys are on the list, right? Because number 10 is Chris Jericho.
Wow. In 2004.
In 2004. And I think he's like number 24 this past year. Yeah, number 24. Number 9 is Shawn Michaels. Number 8 is AJ Styles, who actually came in the top only number 99 this last year.
Oh, that's a shame. I don't know why he's
pretty low down. I don't know why.
I don't understand it.
Maybe a lack of just high profile programs.
It's that. And I don't understand it at all because he's phenomenal. For lack of a better word, he really is phenomenal. I don't understand it.
Now, number 7 is John Cena. So John Cena hasn't quite made it to the top yet, but he's becoming the guy. Number 6 is Kawada, which is fun because Kawada is about to retire here.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think he retires in 2010, something like that.
Literally, no one knew who that was at the time.
I guess you're right. I mean, people knew, but
any idea?
Not so much. Now, what's interesting here is number 5 is Randy Orton.
Okay.
And I don't think Randy Orton makes the top 100 this past year, which is interesting.
Well, he
I don't
didn't
think he does.
wrestle. He was
Oh yeah,
out.
that's true. He was
Yeah,
injured
he
for he
was
had
out.
his situation. Um, and then let's see, Kobashi number 4, Kenta Kobashi.
Oh,
3 is
Kenta.
Triple H, and then number 2 and number 1, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, number
Yeah.
1 in
Yeah, it's
2004.
the
So
guy.
again,
It's the
Chris
guy.
Benoit is all over all of this. You can't get away from Chris Benoit in
Yeah, if you
2000,
look up 2004 in wrestling, it's going to hit you in the face for
which is
sure.
why they mostly talk about JBL and Eddie Guerrero during that year because that's all they really had.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting time to think about just what 20 years ago on the calendar was in wrestling and who we're trying to forget about, right? Because like you said, Vince McMahon's all over the product. Chris Benoit's all over the product. Brock Lesnar, he exits early in the year, but then he goes and he makes a splash over in the UFC, and
Well,
you're never going to
it's
see him.
interesting that AJ Styles is up so much higher on that list, not being with WWE.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, for sure.
20 years ago, AJ Styles is doing his best work, like not in the WWE. Like
Yeah,
it feels the same way with Nakamura. Like these guys are doing such good work outside of the WWE system, and then they come in and they just don't reach those heights for whatever reason. You know, we could blame them, we could blame anyone, but
and he was doing it in short shorts with short hair too. So,
I
um,
like, man, the old school AJ Styles look ain't bad. I like all of his looks. I think he can rock it all. There's a guy, long pants, long hair, short hair. He's never looked bad. I don't
hadn't
know
quite
what's
reached his final form yet. Yeah,
I don't even know. Well, I think we almost saw when his return and he came back like I don't know like 3 times as wide. It was kind of crazy, just like
yeah. It
bulked
was.
up.
It's interesting. I guess he's like, I'm gonna wind it down. Let's do something different, I suppose. Or maybe it's just, you get older, you get hurt, and you're whatever.
I keep wondering if they're just gonna bring him back and bring back. I mean, why don't they do some kind of Bullet Club angle in WWE? I don't understand it. Like it's ripe for nostalgia. It's right there, guys. You guys got Finn Balor, you got AJ Styles, like you got Cody Rhodes. What? Like just not gonna pick up that ball at all.
The problem is they tried it, but they didn't really try it.
Yeah, you got to really
They
try.
had the club,
Yeah, yeah.
and they had Gallows and Carl Anderson
That's
with
not
him
the
doing
right
it.
way to try.
And they did it for a minute, and then they split them up, and they're like, well, they're still together, but AJ Styles is on one show, and the other guys are on the other show.
Yeah, it's weird.
And that didn't make any sense, and I like
Yeah.
all those guys, but it was just kind of like, it was very soft. Um, and like you said, you had Finn Balor there, but they didn't do anything with that. But they weren't really doing anything with Finn Balor at the time. It was like so. But now what they're going to do is they're going to say, "Well, we tried it and
Yeah,
it didn't
yeah.
work," but they didn't really try it either. So I don't know what to make of that. But
I don't know. People like nostalgia. I like thinking about things that happened 20 years ago today. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. And you know one thing, if there's one thing we could bring back from 20 years ago today, I'd like to repeat that AJ Styles CM Punk match. If that doesn't happen while CM Punk is back and while AJ
yeah.
Styles is there, we've really missed an opportunity. It was a fantastic match and would be super interesting to revisit that 20 years later.
I'd like to see it. I wonder, yeah, because I don't know how much more time we have before that could happen, and I don't know if when CM Punk comes back, if they just put him opposite Cody Rhodes
Yeah,
again, you
that
know.
seems to be the thing. They
Um,
don't let these guys play enough. Like I was just saying
yeah,
in another video, like Cody Rhodes has been there now for a couple years. He's fought like 4 guys on the roster.
yeah,
Like I don't get back in AEW, he's fighting like everybody. Like every
yeah.
single person every week he's like running through the roster. I'm like, why aren't we having more fun with this?
You know, we'll have to do a 10-year one as well. Um, at some
Absolutely.
point in time too, because I feel like 2014 in WWE was actually a pretty fun time.
Yeah, no, a
Or
lot of interesting
Ring of
stuff
Honor or
going on in
whatever.
2014.
Yeah,
That's like the revolution happens in 2014. There's a lot of really seminal stuff that happens in 2014 that'll come to fruition 10 years from then for sure. Like I think we're seeing like the bare bones in 2004.
Yeah.
And then we start really we start putting some flesh on those bones in 2014 and 2015 for sure.
I think it's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking here. Actually, it looks like, oh yeah, 2015. It gets interesting because that's
Yeah.
whenever around the time John Cena wins the U.S. title, um, which was a very interesting time in WWE because he had his whole U.S. Open challenge that he was doing, which was a lot of fun because he was just putting on like great matches every week
They
with
let him
just
wrestle
different
everybody
people.
on the roster?
Yeah, yeah,
You gotta do that stuff, guys. All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming by, Grant.
Man,
It
I'm
was
proud to
really
be here.
fun catching up on wrestling history with you. Let us know what you think about that down in the comments below. And yeah, we might just have to have you come back and talk more about wrestling history because it's some really fun stuff.
Let's do it, man. I'm down.
All right. Let the people know what you're up to, where to find you,
Man,
what you
I've
got
got so
going
much going
on.
on right now. I am going to be at Pensacon, not in a official capacity at the end of February, just promoting. March 9th and 10th, I'll be the host of the Louisiana Comic Con in Lafayette, Louisiana,
Nice.
at the Cajun Dome. We're going to have Kevin Nash there. We're going to have Booker T there. We're going to have Charmel there. And DJ Qualls is there. He's not a wrestler, but he's also,
He's a
he's a
cool
guy that
guy.
people know. And what's fun about that is on the 10th, as we are closing our show, WWE is coming into the same facility for a live event that night. So
Crazy.
if you come and hang out, you might catch a couple wrestlers and maybe just catch some wrestling as well. So you can check that out. Louisiana Comic Con is the place to be for that. After Sting retires and a little later on, we can talk about this a little bit more. But Sting will be at another show we're doing called the Southern Nerds Fest in
Oh,
Biloxi,
nice.
Mississippi. Sting's rad. He's awesome. Meet him while you can because he's just going to disappear one day. Okay, just so you know, Sting's going. You're just not going to see him anymore. It's going to
I
happen. So
was
do that.
watching a documentary on him. He
Yeah,
likes to like hang out on farms and just set bonfires. That's
yeah.
like what he enjoys doing. So
You
yeah,
know what?
I think you're right about that.
That sounds like it's on brand.
I think
Um,
that's really where he's at. Like if
yeah,
he's out here doing meet and greets, like go catch him now because
yeah,
he at one point he will just retire to his farm and set fires for the rest of his life.
yeah. That's the way to do it, man. And then you can check me out on Instagram at Grant L Fletcher. That's where I'm most active. And then of course on the Humble Show that's down here at the bottom on this screen there. You
We'll
see
link
how
your
we have that.
channel
We
down
talk
below
about it.
too, guys, so you can go check out the Humble Show. I know you got some good episodes coming up, and who knows,
do.
maybe you'll even catch a wild Heartgrave.
Yeah. Look, man, we got a lot going on, and I told my co-host today, I was like, oh, we need to have Mr. Hargrave back on. Once we get past this barrage of guests we have coming up for Louisiana Comic Con, we definitely need to have you back on and just talk about we'll talk about Booker T and Kevin Nash. How about that? That'll be a lot of fun.
Who knows? All right,
Maybe
guys.
Kevin Nash will tell me I look like Ricky Gervais again. I don't know. So
There's a resemblance. All right, everybody. Let us know who Grant Fletcher looks like down in the comments below, and what do you want to tell the grave diggers?
grave diggers, keep digging.
Stop what you're doing, baby, and follow Mr. Hargrave from parts unknown, if you will, baby.
I've seen the demon's face.
Mark joined one half of private party, say what up to the grave diggers, and keep doing your thing.
On my knees in praise of the horrible things that took her away.
Watch another video or be cursed.